Awakening Inner Greatness, a transformative journey. Deep within the human being lies unexplored power, waiting to be awakened to illuminate the path to true greatness. This book, Discipline Your Mind, by an unknown author, is a gem that stands out for its profound exploration of personal and spiritual growth. Throughout its pages, teachings are woven that invite inner transformation, guiding the reader to self-mastery, mental discipline, and the transcendence of the spirit through powerful reflections and universal principles. This text shows how to cultivate a life of purpose and wisdom, inspiring us to lead by example and leave a legacy that transcends the material. This book is not just a reading, it's a map for those seeking to live a full life in balance and in deep connection with their inner being. It's an invitation to discover and manifest the best in ourselves, leaving an indelible mark on the world and on future generations. Chapter 1. Awakening Inner Strength. In the hidden chambers of the human soul lies an unbreakable force, dormant in the slumber of unconsciousness. It's an ancient force that transcends time and circumstances, waiting for the opportune moment to awaken and manifest in all its splendor. This hidden force, deep within our being, doesn't surrender to the whims of destiny nor bends to adversity. It's the latent power, the indomitable spirit that drives us to overcome, to rise above the limitations imposed by everyday reality. At the beginning of the journey, when everything seems dark and directionless, it's easy to forget that this force exists. We get lost in the labyrinths of the mind, entangled in fears and doubts, convinced that we are mere spectators in the grand theater of life. However, those who dare to look beyond the veil of ignorance discover that within themselves lies an invaluable treasure, the power to forge their own destiny. The awakening of this inner force doesn't happen by chance or suddenly. It's a slow process, a resurgence that demands patience, self-knowledge, and above all, an unshakable faith in who we are and what we can become. The person who has decided to embark on this path becomes their own artisan, molding their life with a firm conviction that the seed of greatness resides within them. But what does it truly mean to awaken this force? It's an act of deep courage, a challenge against the pre-established molds that society has imposed. It means challenging the limiting beliefs that, like invisible chains, tie us to a life of mediocrity. It's a silent but powerful cry that resonates deep within our being, claiming our inalienable right to freedom and self-expression. In this resurgence, one not only discovers their inner strength but also understands that this force isn't a product of circumstances. It's the result of constant work, iron discipline, and an iron will that doesn't yield to fatigue or difficulties. It's the fruit of a life lived with purpose, where every action, no matter how small, contributes to building a strong and determined character. As we walk this path, it becomes evident that true strength doesn't reside in muscles or physical ability, but in the mind and spirit. It's a force that cannot be taken away, for it's an intrinsic part of our essence. It manifests in how we face challenges, in how we overcome adversities, and in the serenity with which we accept the blows of destiny. It's a force that transcends the ego and connects with something larger, with a universal energy that guides and sustains us in the darkest moments. The awakening of this inner force is ultimately an act of self-love. It's recognizing that we are worthy of all the good that life has to offer and that to receive it, we must be willing to fight for it. It's understanding that even if the path is difficult, every step brings us closer to the realization of our dreams and the fulfillment of our purpose in this world. However, this awakening isn't an end in itself. It's the beginning of a new life, a life in which we become the heroes of our own story. It's the starting point of a profound transformation that leads us to discover and develop our full potential. It's the moment when we stop being victims of circumstances to become the creators of our reality. For those who have embarked on this path, the reward is great. They not only find a new, stronger, and more confident version of themselves, but they also discover a world full of possibilities, a world where everything is possible as long as we are willing to make the necessary effort to achieve our goals. In this journey of self-discovery, it's essential to remember that inner strength isn't a gift exclusive to a few. We all possess it. No matter how lost or dejected we feel, there's always a spark of hope within us, a vestige of that force that, if cultivated, can grow and become a fire that illuminates our life and the lives of those around us. Thus, the awakening of inner strength not only transforms our life but also impacts those around us. We become beacons of hope, living examples of what's possible when we believe in ourselves and our power to change our reality. We become leaders not through power or influence over others, but through the inspiration we provide through our actions and way of life. The resurgence of this force is therefore an act of liberation. We free ourselves from the bonds of doubt, fear, and mediocrity and embrace the greatness that has always been within us. We free ourselves from the need for external approval and find within ourselves the validation we need to move forward. We free ourselves from self-imposed limitations and allow ourselves to dream big, knowing that we have everything we need within us to make those dreams a reality. Every step on this path is a reaffirmation of our power, a confirmation that we are capable of achieving everything we set our minds to. It's a constant reminder that true strength doesn't lie in what we possess or what we do, but in what we are. It's a journey of self-discovery and self-affirmation in which every experience, every challenge brings us closer to understanding our true nature and realizing our full potential. As we walk this path, we learn to trust ourselves and the process of life. We learn that although the path may be arduous and full of obstacles, every difficulty is an opportunity to grow and strengthen ourselves. We learn that true strength isn't the absence of fear or doubt, but the ability to keep going despite them. Ultimately, the awakening of inner strength is a call to action. It's an invitation to set aside passivity and take the reins of our life. It's an exhortation to rise up, to fight for our dreams, and not to settle for less than what we know we deserve. It's a challenge to become the best version of ourselves, to rise above our circumstances, and to live a life of purpose and meaning. And so, with every step we take, with every obstacle we overcome, we get closer to realizing our true potential. We become the masters of our destiny, the architects of our life, and the heroes of our own story. And in that moment, when we look back and see how far we've come, we understand that the awakening of our inner strength has not only transformed us but has changed the world around us. Chapter 2. Self-Discipline, Pillar of Personal Success. In the vast canvas of life, self-discipline emerges as the invisible thread that weaves the destinies of those who dare to dream and act consistently. It's not a virtue acquired overnight, nor a quality lightly displayed. Rather, it's the result of a continuous process, a refinement of the spirit forged in the fires of effort and constancy. Self-discipline, that silent force that drives us forward when everything seems against us, is the true pillar upon which personal success is built. It's the compass that guides our actions towards the highest ideals and the anchor that keeps us firm amidst the storms that inevitably arise during our existence. Let's imagine for a moment a sculptor in front of a marble block. In their mind, they already envision the perfect figure hidden within the stone, but they know that to free it, they must face long hours of work, fatigue, and sometimes frustration. However, their hand doesn't tremble, and every strike of the chisel is a manifestation of their unbreakable will. This is self-discipline, the art of shaping our life with firmness and purpose, eliminating the superfluous and patiently sculpting the masterpiece we wish to become. Nevertheless, in an era that celebrates the immediate and the ephemeral, self-discipline has lost its prestige. It's considered a heavy burden, an unnecessary sacrifice in a world that invites us to yield to comfort and instant pleasure. But those who have achieved true greatness know that self-discipline isn't a chain that limits us, but a key that sets us free. It frees us from chaos, dispersion, and mediocrity, allowing us to focus our energies on what truly matters. Through self-discipline, one becomes the master of their destiny, capable of resisting the temptations that divert so many from their path. It's not about a constant struggle against one's desires, but about harmonizing them with the highest ideals. It's the ability to say no to what pulls us away from our mission and yes to what brings us closer to it, even if it means giving up momentary pleasures. In this sense, self-discipline isn't an act of repression, but of self-love. It's the recognition that we are worthy of everything life can offer us, but to receive it, we must be willing to make the necessary effort. It's the purest expression of self-respect, for by disciplining ourselves, we are affirming that our vision and our dreams are valuable enough to deserve all our effort. History is full of examples of men and women who, through self-discipline, achieved seemingly impossible feats. Think of the navigator who, against wind and tide, kept the rudder of his ship firm, guided by the star of his purpose, or the scholar who, renouncing the distractions of the world, dedicated his life to the pursuit of truth. These examples remind us that self-discipline is essentially a form of devotion, a surrender to what we believe is right and necessary. But self-discipline isn't limited to great acts of heroism or sacrifice. It also manifests in the small details of daily life, in the constancy with which we fulfill our responsibilities, in the attention we pay to every task, no matter how insignificant it may seem. It's in these seemingly trivial acts that character is forged, where the inner strength is cultivated that will allow us to face the greatest challenges with serenity and determination. Self-discipline, then, is a daily practice, a constant exercise of will. It's the act of waking up every day with a firm resolve to be better than yesterday, not to yield to difficulties or laziness, and to fulfill our commitments even if we don't see immediate results. It's ultimately the foundation upon which we build a life of meaning and purpose. However, it's important to remember that self-discipline isn't an end in itself, but a means to achieve our goals. It's not about imposing rigid self-discipline for its own sake, but about using it as a tool to achieve what we truly desire. It's the force that drives us to continue when motivation fades, that allows us to persevere in our efforts even when everything seems against us. In this sense, self-discipline is an act of faith in oneself, a declaration that we believe in our ability to achieve what we set out to do. It's the belief that even if the path is long and arduous, every step we take brings us closer to the realization of our dreams. It's the certainty that even if success isn't immediate, it will come, as long as we have the discipline to keep going. To cultivate self-discipline, a high degree of self-awareness is necessary. We must be constantly attentive to our actions, our decisions, and our reactions to difficulties. We must learn to recognize moments when our will falters and reinforce it with thoughts and actions that remind us of our purpose. Self-discipline isn't a burden carried in solitude, but a path that connects us with something greater than ourselves. It's, in a sense, an act of communion with the universe, an alignment of our will with the forces that govern the cosmos. It's ultimately an act of humility, of recognizing that although we are powerful, we are not omnipotent, and that to achieve our goals, we must work in harmony with the laws of nature and spirit. Thus, self-discipline becomes an art, a subtle dance between effort and surrender, between control and acceptance. It's the ability to act with determination but also to know when to let go, when to trust the process and allow things to take their natural course. It's the ability to maintain balance between doing and being, between movement and stillness, between impulse and calm. On this path of self-discipline, it's essential to surround ourselves with those who share our ideals and inspire us to keep going. The company of people who have walked this path before us and achieved success through self-discipline is a beacon that illuminates our way and reminds us that although difficult, the path we have chosen is the right one. The cultivation of self-discipline isn't an act of selfishness, but of generosity. By disciplining ourselves, we become better people, more complete beings capable of giving more to those around us. We become living examples of what's possible when one lives with purpose and determination. And in doing so, we inspire others to follow our example, to cultivate in themselves the self-discipline that will allow them to achieve their own goals and dreams. Finally, self-discipline teaches us a fundamental truth, that success isn't measured by what we achieve, but by what we become in the process. That the true reward of self-discipline isn't external recognition, but the internal satisfaction of knowing that we have lived true to ourselves, that we have done everything in our power to achieve our goals, and that along the way we have become the people we always knew we could be. And so, at the end of our days, when we look back and contemplate the path traveled, we will be able to do so with pride and peace, knowing that thanks to self-discipline, we have lived a full life, a life of meaning, a life of success in the deepest sense of the word. Chapter 3. Building a Powerful Vision. In the profound silence that precedes dawn, when the world still sleeps under the cloak of darkness, the seed of all greatness is born, vision. It's not a mere whim of the mind, nor a fleeting desire that vanishes with daylight. It's an inner flame, a divine spark that ignites the soul and guides the spirit through the labyrinths of existence. Those who dare to conceive a powerful vision rise above mediocrity, transcending the limitations of the present to glimpse the infinite horizons of the future. Building a powerful vision is essentially an act of creation. It's the process by which we give form to the intangible, sculpting in the mind a reality that doesn't yet exist in the physical world but nevertheless pulses with the force of the inevitable. It's the art of seeing beyond what the eyes can perceive, of imagining what others consider impossible, and of clinging to that image with unshakable faith until it finally manifests in reality. This act of creation begins in the innermost depths of our being, in that sacred space where our deepest desires and highest aspirations reside. It's there that the vision is conceived, nurtured, and strengthened until it finally acquires the necessary form and clarity to guide us on our path. It's not a process that can be rushed, for vision needs time to mature, to take root in our consciousness, and to become an integral part of who we are. However, in an era that values the immediate and the superficial, building a powerful vision has become a forgotten art. We have become experts at reacting to circumstances, at adapting to the demands of the moment, but we have lost the ability to imagine a future that transcends the present, to visualize a destiny that goes beyond what seems possible. But those who understand the power of vision know that it is precisely in moments of greatest uncertainty that a powerful vision is most necessary. Creating a powerful vision isn't simply a mental exercise, it's an act of deep connection with our most authentic self. It's the recognition that deep within us exists a purpose, a mission that we are called to fulfill. It's the ability to listen to that inner voice that tells us who we truly are and what we have come to do in this world. It is, ultimately, an act of self-love, of respect for ourselves and for the role we are destined to play in the great drama of life. Once we have conceived our vision, the next step is to infuse it with life. This isn't achieved through simple repetition of affirmations or the creation of detailed plans. It's achieved through total immersion in the vision, allowing it to permeate every thought, every emotion, every action. We must live our vision in every moment, act as if it were already a reality, feel deep within our being that what we have imagined is possible and that, in fact, it is inevitable. In this sense, building a powerful vision is an act of faith in its purest form. It's the belief that although the path may be uncertain, although circumstances may change, the vision will remain firm, guiding us like a beacon in the darkness. It's the certainty that although the outer world may not be aligned with our vision, we can trust that in time, reality will adjust to what we have visualized. But faith alone isn't enough. A powerful vision also requires action, a constant commitment to working towards its realization. It's not enough to imagine the destination. We must be willing to walk the path that will lead us there. This involves confronting our fears, overcoming our doubts, and persisting in our efforts even when everything seems against us. It's in these moments of trial that the true strength of our vision is revealed, when we discover whether we are truly committed to what we have imagined or if we are willing to give it up at the first signs of difficulty. The construction of a powerful vision is therefore a continuous process, an act of creation that is renewed every day. It's not something that is achieved once and for all, but something that must be cultivated and strengthened constantly. It's a living relationship between us and our future, a dance between what we are and what we wish to become. And like any relationship, it requires care, attention, and deep dedication. When building our vision, we must also be aware that we are not doing so in a vacuum. Our vision is intertwined with the visions of those around us, and its realization largely depends on our ability to inspire and mobilize others. A powerful vision isn't selfish. It's expansive, inclusive, and has the power to transform not only our life but also the lives of those who touch ours. It's a beacon that guides not only our path but also that of those who follow us, illuminating the path to a better future for all. In this context, vision isn't just a reflection of our personal desires, but also a response to the needs of the world around us. It's the manifestation of our commitment to something greater than ourselves, to a purpose that transcends our own ambitions and aligns with the deep currents of life. It's the recognition that although we are individuals with our own goals and dreams, we are also part of a larger whole, and our vision must reflect this interconnectedness. Thus, by building a powerful vision, we are not only creating a future for ourselves, but also contributing to the creation of a more harmonious world, more in tune with the highest ideals of humanity. We are, in a sense, participating in the work of creation, contributing our part to the grand design of the universe. And it's in this participation that we find the true power of vision. By committing to our vision, by living it in every moment, by working tirelessly for its realization, we become co-creators of our reality. We realize that we are not mere passive observers of life, but that we have the power to shape it, to give it form according to our desires and aspirations. And in doing so, we discover that vision isn't just a means to an end, but an end in itself, an expression of what we are and what we are destined to be. Finally, looking back at our lives, we realize that the true measure of success isn't in what we have achieved, but in the quality of our vision, in the clarity with which we have seen our destiny, and in the dedication with which we have worked to achieve it. We understand that vision is the guiding thread that gives coherence and meaning to our existence, that guides us in moments of uncertainty and gives us strength in moments of difficulty. And in doing so, we discover that we have lived not only a life of achievements but a life of purpose, a life that has contributed in its small way to the realization of a greater good. In this sense, building a powerful vision is the noblest act we can perform, not only for ourselves but for the world we inhabit. It's a declaration that we believe in the power of our dreams, in the ability of the human being to transcend their limitations and reach for the stars. It's an affirmation that although the path may be arduous and full of obstacles, we are willing to walk it because we know that in the end, the realization of our vision awaits us, the manifestation of what we have imagined, the culmination of our highest ideals. And so, at the end of our days, when twilight falls upon us and we contemplate the path traveled, we will be able to do so with the satisfaction of having lived a life guided by a powerful vision. A life in which we have been true to ourselves, in which we have worked tirelessly for our dreams, and in which we have left a mark that will last long after we are gone. And in that moment, we will understand that vision has not only guided us but has transformed us, made us greater, more compassionate, more human. Chapter 4. The Art of Self-Love and Self-Confidence. In the vast mosaic of human existence, where every fragment of experience adds a new hue to the canvas of our life, self-love and self-confidence are the master strokes that reveal the essence of our true nature. Without these pillars, the image we project to the world becomes a blurred shadow, a distorted replica of who we truly are. But with them, life transforms into a sublime work of art, where every stroke reflects the authenticity of our being. Self-love is not an act of selfishness, as many might think, but a manifestation of the purest form of self-respect. It's the recognition of our intrinsic worth, the act of embracing our imperfections and strengths with the same tenderness, to look at ourselves in the mirror of the soul and see ourselves as we are, without the masks we often wear to hide our vulnerability. It's the complete and unreserved acceptance of all that we are, all that we have been, and all that we are destined to be. But the path to self-love is neither easy nor free of challenges. In a world that constantly bombards us with images of unattainable perfection, with ideals that always seem out of reach, learning to love ourselves is an act of rebellion, an affirmation that our worth is not measured by external standards, but by the inner light we carry. It's the conscious decision to value ourselves for who we are, not for what we do or have, and to nurture that light with the same dedication with which we would care for a secret garden hidden from the world but overflowing with beauty and life. Self-confidence, on the other hand, is the ripe fruit that grows from the tree of self-love. It's the certainty that no matter what storms may buffet our life, we have within us the strength and ability to face them. It's faith in our abilities, in our capacity to learn, to grow, and to overcome any obstacle that stands in our way. It's the deep conviction that we are enough as we are, that we don't need the approval or recognition of others to feel complete. However, self-confidence doesn't arise from nothing, nor is it maintained automatically. It's something that must be cultivated, like a delicate plant, with patience, care, and the willingness to nurture it even in the most difficult moments. It requires us to confront our fears, to face our insecurities, and to constantly remind ourselves that we are capable, that we are valuable, and that we deserve all the good that life has to offer us. The art of self-love and self-confidence, then, is not only an internal process but also a dance with the external world. It's learning to set boundaries, to say no when necessary, to distance ourselves from people and situations that don't respect our worth, and to surround ourselves with those who nourish and uplift us. It's learning to be gentle with ourselves, to forgive ourselves for our mistakes, and to treat ourselves with the same compassion and kindness with which we would treat a loved one. In this art, each of us is both the artist and the work. We are the creators of our internal reality, and what we cultivate within ourselves inevitably reflects in the world around us. When we love ourselves, when we trust in our abilities, we begin to attract everything that is in harmony with that vibration. Healthy relationships, growth opportunities, and experiences that allow us to continue evolving towards our highest potential. But for many, self-love and self-confidence are unexplored territories, arid deserts they haven't dared to venture into. Internal criticism, fueled by years of conditioning and external expectations, acts as a barrier that prevents us from seeing our true beauty and worth. Facing this criticism, dismantling the limiting beliefs that sustain it, and replacing them with a more loving and empowering narrative is an act of courage, a step towards emotional and spiritual freedom. Self-confidence doesn't mean believing that we are perfect, but accepting our imperfections as part of our humanity. It's recognizing that even if we make mistakes, those mistakes don't define us, and that every experience, however painful, is an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to strengthen our faith in ourselves. It's the ability to get up after every fall, to look at the horizon with hope, and to move forward with the certainty that even if the path is difficult, we have everything we need within us to walk it. Self-love and self-confidence are, ultimately, acts of faith. Faith that we are enough, faith that we are worthy of love and respect, faith that we deserve all the good that life has to offer us. They are the foundation upon which we build a life of meaning, a life in which we feel fulfilled, not by what we achieve, but by what we are. They are the force that drives us forward even when circumstances seem against us, and the light that illuminates our path in moments of darkness. In this art, There are no shortcuts or quick solutions. It's a continuous process, a journey of self-discovery that takes us to the depths of our being and allows us to see ourselves with new clarity. It's a journey that requires courage, but also offers great rewards, because when we finally learn to love ourselves, when we trust in our ability to overcome any challenge, we realize that we have found the true treasure, one that cannot be measured in material wealth, but is infinitely more valuable. Inner peace, the joy of being who we are, and the freedom to live an authentic life in harmony with our deepest essence. Thus, the art of self-love and self-confidence not only transforms us but also has the power to transform the world around us. When we love ourselves, we radiate an energy of love that extends to everyone around us, creating a ripple effect that can change lives. And when we trust in ourselves, we inspire others to do the same, to believe in their own power, and to follow their own path with courage and determination. In this process, we realize that self-love and self-confidence are not destinations we reach, but paths we choose to walk every day. They are choices we make in every moment, in every interaction, in every thought and action, and it is these choices that ultimately define the quality of our life, the depth of our relationships, and the fulfillment we find in our journey. So, at the end of this chapter, as we look within ourselves with a new perspective, let us remember that self-love and self-confidence are not gifts bestowed upon us from the outside, but treasures we discover within ourselves, and that by cultivating them with patience and dedication, we not only get closer to our true essence but also contribute to the creation of a more loving, more compassionate, and more luminous world. Chapter 5. Overcoming Mental Barriers. In the vast theater of life, where every soul is both actor and spectator, mental barriers are the invisible shadows that lurk from the depths of being, preventing the wings of our spirit from unfolding. They are not tangible barriers that can be knocked down with brute force, but subtle constructions built over the years by the invisible hands of fear, doubt, and uncertainty. They are walls that imprison us within ourselves, limiting our ability to see beyond the immediate, to dream the impossible, to reach the fullness of our potential. Overcoming these barriers is an act of supreme courage, a confrontation with the ghosts that inhabit the darkest corners of our mind. It's a battle that is not fought on the battlefield of external reality, but on the invisible terrain of thought, where beliefs and paradigms form the chains that bind us to a life of mediocrity. But those who dare to challenge these limitations, to question the truths they have accepted without doubting, discover that the freedom they long for is not found in the external world, but in the transformation of their own consciousness. Mental barriers, in their deepest essence, are the reflection of our deepest fears, of the unhealed wounds we carry from time immemorial. They are the echoes of the voices that, since childhood, have whispered to us that we are not enough, that we are not worthy, that our dreams are unattainable chimeras. They are the shadows projected on the screen of our mind, creating illusions of helplessness and despair, when in reality we are beings endowed with limited power, with an infinite capacity to create and transform our reality. Overcoming these barriers requires, first of all, the courage to face oneself, to look directly into the eyes of our fears and recognize them for what they are, illusions. Because although these barriers may seem insurmountable, although the weight of our limiting beliefs may crush us under their yoke, deep in our soul we know that they are creations of our own mind and that, as such, they can be undone. This process of liberation begins with self-awareness, with the ability to observe our thoughts and emotions without identifying with them. It's an act of deep introspection, of delving into the roots of our beliefs and questioning them with the lucidity of a sage. It's asking again and again why I believe this. Is it really true? What evidence do I have that these limitations are real and not simply constructions of my mind? It's an exercise in dismantling, in deconstructing the invisible walls that have held us prisoner for so long. However, self-awareness alone isn't enough. It's also necessary to cultivate the will to change, to leave behind what has kept us tied down and to open ourselves to new possibilities. This is the bravest act a human being can perform, because it implies giving up the comfort of the known, the security of old beliefs, and venturing into the unknown, into a territory where there are no certainties but the promise of authentic freedom. On this path, we are not alone. Although mental barriers are personal and unique to each individual, the experience of overcoming them is universal. All of us, at some point in our lives, have faced the limitations of our own mind, and all of us have felt the longing to free ourselves from them. This is the essence of the human condition, the innate desire to grow, to expand our consciousness, to transcend the limitations we have imposed on ourselves, and to reach new heights of understanding and realization. Overcoming mental barriers is therefore a journey of self-discovery, a pilgrimage to the deepest regions of our being. It's a journey that leads us to confront not only our fears and doubts, but also our highest aspirations, our boldest dreams, and our highest hopes. It's a journey that forces us to re-evaluate everything we have taken for granted, to question the truths we have accepted without doubting, and to reconstruct our reality from the foundations of a new understanding. This transformation process is neither linear nor achieved overnight. It's a dance between light and shadow, between fear and hope, between doubt and faith. There are moments when old beliefs seem to have the upper hand, when mental barriers feel more solid than ever, and when the temptation to give up is overwhelming. But it is precisely in these moments that true character is revealed, when we discover the depth of our inner strength, and when the spark of our divinity shines most intensely. On this journey, every overcome obstacle, every barrier broken down, is a step towards freedom, towards the realization of our true potential. And with every step, we realize that the limitations we once considered insurmountable were nothing more than mirages, projections of a mind that had not yet awakened to its true power. We realize that by facing our mental barriers, we are not only freeing ourselves, but we are also opening new possibilities for all those who follow our example. Thus, overcoming mental barriers is not only an act of personal growth, but also an act of service to humanity. Because by freeing ourselves from our own limitations, we show others that they can do the same, that they are not alone in their struggle, and that there is a path to freedom that we can all walk. We become beacons of hope, living examples of what is possible when we dare to challenge our beliefs and expand our consciousness beyond self-imposed limits. At the end of this path, when mental barriers have been finally overcome, we find ourselves face to face with our true essence, with that divine being that has always been there, patiently waiting for us to recognize it. We realize that the freedom we have been seeking is not found in the external world, but within ourselves, in the ability of our mind to free itself from the chains it has created, and in that moment we understand that the real challenge was not to overcome mental barriers per se, but to remember our own greatness, our innate capacity to create, to transform, and to live a life of fullness and realization. We understand that in the end, there are no barriers that can contain us, because we are unlimited beings, endowed with infinite power, and that our true task in this life is to awaken to that truth and live it in all its fullness. This is the true art of overcoming mental barriers. It's not simply an act of force or will, but a process of awakening, of remembering who we truly are, and of living from that understanding. It's a journey towards freedom, towards the realization of our highest potential, and towards the creation of a life that is in perfect harmony with our true essence. And so, at the end of our days, when we look back and contemplate the path traveled, we will be able to do so with the satisfaction of knowing that we have lived a life free of limitations, a life in which we have overcome our mental barriers and in which we have reached the fullness of our being. Because in the end, the true purpose of life is not simply to overcome the barriers that are presented to us, but to remember that in our deepest essence, we are free, powerful, and divine beings. Chapter 6. Personal Brand, Reflecting Your True Self. In the vast tapestry of existence, where every interwoven thread forms the rich and complex fabric of our lives, the personal brand emerges as an emblem representing not only what we do but, more profoundly, who we are in our purest essence. It is the indelible mark we leave on the world, the reflection of our true self projected in every action, every word, every interaction. It is not a simple mask we wear to impress others, but a banner that waves high and firm, revealing the truth of our identity to all around us. In a world saturated with imitations and superficiality, authenticity has become a treasured commodity, a rare jewel that few dare to show. But those who understand the power of their true essence, who embrace their uniqueness with pride and without fear, discover that a personal brand is not something that is artificially constructed, but rather something that reveals itself as we shed the layers of conditioning and expectation that have been imposed on us since childhood. The personal brand, then, is a declaration of authenticity, an act of courage in which we present ourselves to the world as we are, unadorned, unpretentious, with the purity and strength of our inner truth. It is a process of self-exploration and self-discovery in which we immerse ourselves in the depths of our being, confronting our shadows and celebrating our lights until we emerge with a clear understanding of what we truly are and what we have come to offer the world. Forging a personal brand is essentially an act of creation. It is not the creation of a false or fabricated identity, but the manifestation of our most authentic self in the realm of everyday reality. It is a process that requires not only introspection but also a deep commitment to truth, a willingness to live in coherence with our highest values, and a sincere desire to contribute to the common good from the fullness of who we are. However, this path to authenticity is not easy. We live in a world that constantly pressures us to conform, to fit into pre-established molds, to follow the dictates of society instead of listening to the voice of our heart. The creation of an authentic personal brand, therefore, requires an act of resistance, a conscious decision not to be swept away by the currents of conformity and to stand firm in the truth of our own experience. In this sense, a personal brand is much more than a mere tool for professional success. It is an expression of our integrity, an external manifestation of our inner life. It is not just about how we want others to see us, but about how we want to see ourselves, how we want to live and experience life. It is the integration of our deepest aspirations with our daily actions, of our dreams with our reality, of our inner identity with our external presence. For those who dare to forge an authentic personal brand, the journey is both internal and external. It is a process of self-acceptance in which we learn to love and value all parts of ourselves, even those that we had previously rejected or ignored. It is an act of reconciliation with our past, of liberation from the chains of regret and guilt, and of affirmation of our right to be who we are, with all our flaws and virtues. At the same time, it is a process of expression in which we share with the world what we have discovered within ourselves. This expression is not limited to what we say or do, but extends to our way of being in the world, to the energy we project, to the way we interact with others and with the reality that surrounds us. It is a silent but powerful communication that speaks more than words ever could and leaves a lasting impression on all who cross our path. However, this expression is not an act of selfishness or self-indulgence. We do not forge an authentic personal brand to feed our ego or to seek the admiration of others. The authentic personal brand is born from a place of service, from a genuine desire to contribute to the well-being of the world, to offer the best of ourselves for the benefit of others. It is a reflection of our awareness that ultimately we are all connected and that our authenticity not only benefits us but also enriches all those around us. This approach to personal branding as an act of service completely transforms our understanding of what it means to be authentic. We realize that authenticity is not a matter of self-affirmation but of self-transcendence. It is not simply being true to ourselves, but being true to a greater purpose, to a mission that transcends our own self-interest and aligns with the deep currents of life. By forging a personal brand from this place of service and authenticity, we free ourselves from the pressure of having to be perfect or having to please everyone. We realize that our task is not to please others but to live in coherence with our inner truth, with the certainty that by doing so we will naturally attract those who resonate with our energy and our message. In this way, our personal brand becomes a beacon, a light that guides others to their own authenticity and contributes to the creation of a more genuine and connected world. An authentic personal brand is not built overnight. It is a continuous process, an evolution that unfolds over time as we deepen our understanding of ourselves and our place in the world. It is a dance between stability and change, between consistency and adaptation, in which we remain true to our fundamental values while allowing ourselves to grow and evolve in response to life's experiences and learnings. As we walk this path, we realize that our personal brand is not something static, but a dynamic expression of our constantly transforming identity. It is a reflection of our growth, our lessons learned, our victories and defeats, and the wisdom we have acquired along the way. And in the end, we realize that our personal brand is not just something we show to the world, but something we carry within us, an integral part of who we are and what we are destined to be. Thus, when we reach the end of this chapter, we are met with the profound realization that an authentic personal brand is not a goal to be achieved, but a journey to be lived. It is a journey towards authenticity, coherence, and truth. It is a journey in which we discover again and again who we truly are and in which we learn to express that truth with every fiber of our being. And in doing so, we not only leave a mark on the world, but we also leave a mark on our own soul, a mark that will endure long after we are gone. Chapter 7. The Power of Creative Visualization. In the twilight of consciousness, where dreams intertwine with reality and time vanishes into the infinite possibility of the now, creative visualization emerges as the brush with which the mind sculpts the world. It is not a mere fantasy or a refuge of thought, but a powerful tool of creation, a mystical art that connects the invisible with the visible, the immaterial with the tangible. Those who master this art discover that imagination is not a mere distraction, but the source of all power, the origin of all that has been and all that is yet to come. To visualize is essentially to see with the eyes of the spirit, to contemplate with the inner gaze the realities that have not yet taken form on the physical plane, but that pulse with the promise of their inevitable manifestation. It is an act of deep faith, a commitment to the possible, a sacred pact between the soul and the universe. Through visualization, one becomes a co-creator, an architect of their own destiny, capable of molding their life according to the deepest desires of their heart. But creative visualization is not a passive act. It is a dynamic dance between being and becoming, a constant interaction between what is and what can be. It is a practice that requires not only imagination but also clear intention, sustained focus, and a vibration aligned with what is desired to be manifested. It is, in a sense, a sacred ritual in which every thought, every image, every emotion becomes an offering to the great altar of the universe, waiting for the opportune moment to bear fruit. The power of creative visualization lies in its ability to transcend the limitations of time and space. When we visualize with intensity and conviction, we are sowing the seeds of future realities, laying the groundwork for the manifestation of our desires. But these seeds do not germinate in the soil of the present. They are nourished in the fertile ground of the future, where our intentions meet the creative energy of the universe and together give life to new forms and experiences. To visualize, then, is a way of traveling through time, of experiencing now what we wish to see realized later. It is a way of bringing the future to the present, of living in the vibration of what we want to be, do, or have even before it physically manifests. And in doing so, we are tuning our frequency to that of the universe, attracting to us the people, circumstances, and opportunities that will make our dreams come true. This act of creation, however, is not merely intellectual. It is deeply emotional. Creative visualization is not limited to seeing images in the mind, but involves feeling them with our whole being, living them as if they were already real. It is a process that involves not only the mind, but also the heart, the body, and the spirit. Every cell of our being must vibrate in unison with the vision we are creating. Every fiber of our being must resonate with the truth of what we wish to manifest. It is in this space of total connection, of unity between thought and emotion, where the true magic of creative visualization occurs. Because when we visualize with our whole being, we are sending a clear and powerful signal to the universe, a declaration of our intention, an affirmation of our certainty. And the universe, in its infinite wisdom, responds to that signal, aligning the forces of creation in our favor, opening paths where there were none before, and bringing into our life everything we need to see our vision realized. However, creative visualization is not a magic formula that guarantees instant results. It is a process, a journey, a practice that requires patience, perseverance, and faith. Sometimes the fruits of our visualization may take time to manifest, and it is easy to fall into the trap of doubt or discouragement. But those who understand the true power of visualization know that delay is not a sign of failure, but part of the gestation process, a time when the forces of the universe are working behind the scenes to bring into existence what we have visualized. This is the art of creative visualization. To maintain faith even in the absence of evidence, to hold a vision even when external circumstances seem to contradict it. It is an act of deep trust, of knowing that what we have sown in the mind will eventually flourish in reality, and that the waiting time is not a wasted time, but a time of preparation, a time of alignment, a time when our vision is being refined and strengthened, ready to manifest at the perfect moment. Furthermore, creative visualization is an act of responsibility, because by visualizing, we are assuming the role of co-creator and, with it, the responsibility for what we bring into the world. We cannot simply visualize without consciousness, without intention, without considering the implications of what we are creating. We must be aware that every thought, every image, every emotion we project into the universe has an impact, and that we are responsible for the energies we set in motion. In this sense, creative visualization is also an act of love, because when we visualize with love, we are imbuing our vision with an energy that not only benefits ourselves, but also all those who touch our lives. We are creating not only for our own good, but for the common good, for the flourishing of all. And when our visualization is imbued with love, the universe responds with even greater generosity, bringing into our life blessings that exceed our wildest expectations. To visualize, then, is an act of conscious creation, an art that, when performed with mastery, has the power to transform not only our life but also the world around us. Because by visualizing, we are sowing the seeds of a brighter future, a future in which our boldest dreams come true and in which we all live in harmony with our true essence and with the universe. At the end of this chapter, when we contemplate the power of creative visualization, we will realize that it is not only a tool for manifesting our desires, but a way of life, a way of being in the world. It is an invitation to live with the eyes of the spirit open, to see beyond appearances, to create from the heart, and to trust that when we visualize with clarity, with intention, and with love, we are weaving the threads of our destiny on the loom of the soul, giving life to a reality that reflects our highest truth and our deepest longing. Chapter 8. Persistence, the Secret to Great Achievements. In the annals of history, where the names of those who have left an indelible mark are inscribed in golden letters, persistence emerges as the cardinal virtue, the intangible secret that underlies every great achievement. It is not a quality easily acquired, nor a virtue lightly displayed. Rather, it is the ripe fruit of determination, the embodiment of a will that refuses to bend to the whims of fate or the vicissitudes of life. It is the invisible thread that connects dreams with reality, the bridge that unites desire with manifestation. To persist is, in a sense, an act of supreme faith, an unshakable trust in the justice of the universe, in the belief that every honest effort, every action guided by purpose, will ultimately bear fruit, even if the path to realization is strewn with thorns. It is a dance with time, an alliance with the spirit, a silent promise that the soul makes to itself not to give up, not to surrender, to keep going when all seems lost. Persistence is not mere obstinacy, a blind stubbornness in a course of action that has no way out. It is a quality that transcends stubbornness, that goes beyond the simple desire to be right or to achieve a specific goal. It is the ability to stay the course in the midst of the storm, to adjust the sails but not the destination, to learn from every setback, every fall, and to rise with renewed strength and wisdom. In the grand theater of life, persistence is the common thread that weaves the most sublime scenes, those that leave an indelible mark on the spectator. It is the hidden power behind every success we admire, the force that sustains heroes on their journey, and the balm that heals the inevitable wounds of the journey. Without persistence, the grandest dreams vanish like dew at dawn, and the noblest aspirations are relegated to oblivion, buried beneath the sands of time. True persistence is not manifested in grand gestures, but in the small acts of daily courage, in the seemingly insignificant decisions to keep going when everything suggests giving up. It is the spark that continues to burn in the heart when the fire of motivation has gone out, the whisper of hope that resonates in the soul when the silence of failure seems total. It is the tenacity of the spirit that, with every blow, rises once more, determined to keep going, to continue its path despite everything and against everything. In the life of every human being, a moment comes when persistence is put to the test, a moment when strength seems exhausted, when the horizon darkens and the light of hope fades. It is in those moments when the temptation to give up is strongest, when the voice of discouragement whispers in our ears, that the true nature of persistence is revealed. Because to persist is not simply to continue, it is to do so with purpose, with determination, with the certainty that every step, however small, brings us a little closer to the goal. To persist is an art that is perfected with practice, with experience, with every challenge overcome. It is an art that requires not only strength but also flexibility, the ability to adapt to changing circumstances, to find new paths when old ones close, to transform obstacles into opportunities and defeats into lessons. It is an art that demands a clear vision, a faith in the final destiny, a deep conviction that effort will ultimately be rewarded. But persistence also requires humility, the humility to recognize our limitations, to accept that we do not always have control over circumstances, and to trust that although the path may be difficult, every challenge we face is preparing us for the greatness that awaits us at the end of the journey. It is the humility to know that we are not alone on our journey, that there are forces greater than us working in our favor, and that our task is simply to keep going, one step at a time, with patience and with faith. In this sense, persistence is not only an individual virtue but also a connection with the divine, a manifestation of the will of the universe through us. It is the expression of a law, the law of cause and effect, the certainty that every sincere effort, every action guided by love and purpose, will ultimately bear fruit. And it is the trust that although the path may be long and arduous, the goal is within reach and that every step we take brings us a little closer to it. Persistence is also an act of love, love for ourselves and for our dreams, love for the process of growth and learning that is life. It is the decision not to give up, not because we want to prove something to the world, but because we love ourselves enough not to give up what we truly want. It is the determination to continue, not because it is easy, but because we know it is the right thing to do, that it is what will lead us to the realization of our dreams, to the manifestation of our true potential. To persist is, ultimately, a declaration of faith in life, an affirmation that although the path may be difficult, every challenge is an opportunity to grow, to learn, to strengthen ourselves. It is an invitation to trust the process, to believe that even if we do not always see the immediate results of our efforts, every step we take is bringing us closer to the realization of our dreams. It is a reminder that success is not a destination, but a path, a journey that is traveled with patience, with perseverance, and with an unshakable faith in the justice of the universe. Thus, when at the end of our days we look back and contemplate the path traveled, we will be able to do so with the satisfaction of knowing that we have lived a life of persistence, a life in which we have not given up on our dreams, a life in which we have continued despite the challenges, despite the obstacles, despite everything. And in that moment, we will understand that the true measure of success is not in material achievements, but in the strength of spirit, in the ability to persist, to keep going, and to achieve the greatness that has always been within our grasp. Chapter 9. Transforming Fear into Personal Power. In the vast and unfathomable ocean of human experience, fear arises as an omnipresent shadow, a dense fog that obscures the horizon and blurs our vision. It is the silent guardian that stands on the thresholds of our dreams, the specter that whispers in the darkness of night, reminding us of our vulnerabilities, our limitations, our wounds. And yet, in its contradictory nature, fear is not only an enemy to be defeated but a hidden teacher, a guardian of buried treasures that, when faced and understood, transmutes into an unbreakable force, into pure personal power. Fear, in its deepest essence, is our being's primal response to the unknown, a distant echo of our ancient struggle for survival. It is the alert spark that ignites within us when we venture beyond the confines of the known, the safe, the comfortable. But this fear, although we often perceive it as an insurmountable obstacle, is also a threshold, a portal to a greater understanding of ourselves and the world around us. Transforming fear into personal power is not an easy task, nor is it a path traveled without challenges. It requires, first and foremost, the will to face what frightens us, to look it directly in the eye and acknowledge its presence. It is an act of deep courage, a recognition that fear is not an enemy to be feared but an intrinsic part of our human experience, an emotion that, when embraced wisely, has the potential to become a source of strength, clarity, and purpose. In the alchemy of the spirit, fear is the raw material, the lead that, through the fire of courage and understanding, transforms into the gold of personal power. This process of transmutation begins with acceptance, with the knowledge that fear is a signal, an indicator that we are on the threshold of something important, something that has the power to significantly change our lives. It is the inner voice that warns us that we are about to cross a boundary, to enter unfamiliar territory, and it is precisely in this territory that our greatest potential resides. Fear, when faced, reveals its true roots: doubt, uncertainty, the fear of what might be. And it is at this moment, when we unmask those roots, that we begin to see fear not as a barrier but as an opportunity. Because every fear we face, every shadow we illuminate, gives us the opportunity to grow, to expand our consciousness, to deepen our understanding of ourselves and our ability to overcome the challenges that life presents to us. Transforming fear into personal power is ultimately an act of self-knowledge. It is the process of unraveling the layers of conditioning and beliefs that have fueled our fears, of questioning the stories we have told ourselves, and of rewriting those stories from a place of truth, authenticity, and strength. It is an act of liberation, a breaking of the chains that have kept us bound to a life of limitations, and a step towards a fuller, freer existence, more aligned with our true essence. But this transformation process does not occur in a vacuum. It is a journey undertaken in the company of our emotions, our experiences, our relationships. Fear does not simply disappear because we decide to face it. It requires conscious work, a continuous commitment to our own evolution, a willingness to enter the fire of transformation, knowing that although it may be painful, the end result will be a more powerful, more complete version of ourselves. On this journey, fear becomes an ally, a companion that shows us where we need to grow, what parts of ourselves we need to integrate, what aspects of our life need to be re-examined. When we work with fear instead of fighting against it, we begin to discover that personal power is not something gained despite fear, but through it. It is the strength forged in the crucible of vulnerability, the wisdom acquired by facing one's own shadows, the confidence that arises from knowing that no matter what we face, we have the ability to overcome it. Transforming fear into personal power is also an act of faith, a belief in our own ability to grow, to learn, to evolve. It is the certainty that although fear may be powerful, our desire to live a full and authentic life is even more powerful. It is the conviction that at the center of our being there is a source of infinite strength, a light that never goes out, a flame that burns with the power of 1,000 suns, waiting to be unleashed. This personal power, once unleashed, not only transforms our life but also has the power to transform the world around us. Because when we face our fears and transform them into strength, wisdom, and compassion, we become a beacon for others, a living example of what is possible when we choose to live from love instead of fear. We become agents of change, creators of realities, manifestors of a brighter, braver world, more aligned with the principles of truth, justice, and love. But perhaps most importantly, by transforming fear into personal power, we discover a freedom that transcends external circumstances, a freedom that resides in the knowledge that we are the creators of our own reality, the architects of our own destiny. We realize that although we cannot always control what happens around us, we always have the power to choose how we respond, to decide how we face challenges, to determine the meaning we give to our experiences. And in that choice, in that conscious decision to live from power instead of fear, we find the true essence of what it means to be human, not to be defined by our limitations, but to be defined by our ability to overcome them, not to be prisoners of our circumstances, but to be the masters of our destiny, not to be victims of fear, but to be the bearers of the sacred fire of courage, the courage to live fully, to love without reservations, to create without limits. Thus, when at the end of our days we contemplate the path traveled, we will do so with the satisfaction of knowing that we have not lived a life dominated by fear, but a life guided by power, a life in which we have chosen again and again to transform ourselves and the world through the strength of our spirit, the clarity of our vision, and the inextinguishable fire of our love. Chapter 10. The Influence of Environment on the Path to Success. In the intricate fabric of life, where every thread intertwines with another in a complex and sublime dance, the environment in which we move reveals itself as a crucial factor in shaping our destiny. It is the fertile ground where the seeds of our aspirations are sown, the space that nurtures or stifles the dreams that dwell in our heart. It is not a mere external circumstance, but a living force that molds our character, our beliefs, and ultimately, our path to success. The environment is the mirror in which our deepest truths are reflected, a mirror that, however, has the ability to distort or clarify our vision of ourselves. Those who understand the power of the environment do not see it as a simple passive background to their existence, but as a dynamic ecosystem that constantly and subtly influences every thought, every emotion, every decision we make. The environment is not just the physical place where we find ourselves, but also the relationships we cultivate, the ideas we absorb, the energies we surround ourselves with. It is the sum of all the influences that converge in our life, from the words we hear to the spaces we inhabit. And although we often underestimate its power, the environment has the ability to raise us to the heights of greatness or to plunge us into the abysses of mediocrity. In the ancient tradition of alchemists, it was said that to transform lead into gold, it was necessary to create the right conditions, an environment in which elements could interact in perfect harmony. In the same way, the path to success requires an environment that favors transformation, supports the development of our abilities, and inspires us to reach our full potential. However, in a world that constantly bombards us with distractions and superficial stimuli, the task of creating an environment conducive to success has become more challenging than ever. We live in an era where it is easy to get lost in the noise, where external voices often drown out the inner voice that guides us towards our true mission. That is why it is essential to be aware of the influences we allow into our lives, of the environments we choose to inhabit, of the energies we decide to absorb. Creating an environment conducive to success is an act of consciousness and will. It is the process of surrounding ourselves with what nourishes us, elevates us, inspires us. It is the deliberate choice of the people with whom we share our time, of the ideas we allow to be part of our thinking, of the spaces we inhabit, and of the energies we allow to influence our being. It is an act of careful selection, an art of curating life, in which every detail counts, in which every choice contributes to the creation of an environment that not only reflects our aspirations but also nurtures them. The environment has the power to mold our mind, to influence our emotional state, to affect our physical and spiritual health. And although we often think that we are independent beings, free from external influences, the reality is that we are in constant interaction with our environment, and this interaction has a profound impact on our path to success. The environment can be a powerful ally in our pursuit of greatness, but it can also be an insidious enemy that sabotages our efforts and diverts us from our purpose. For those seeking success, it is essential to create an environment that is aligned with their goals, an environment that not only supports but also enhances their efforts. This does not mean isolating oneself from the world, but consciously choosing the influences to which we expose ourselves, surrounding ourselves with people who share our values, who push us to be better, who inspire us to reach new heights. It means creating spaces that reflect our vision, that fill us with energy, that connect us with our deepest essence. The environment not only influences us, but it also has the power to influence others. When we create an environment conducive to success, we are not only benefiting ourselves, but also those around us. We are creating a space where everyone can prosper, where everyone can grow, where everyone can reach their full potential. We are contributing to the creation of a more harmonious world, more aligned with the principles of truth, justice, and love. In this sense, the environment is an external manifestation of our internal self. It is a reflection of our beliefs, our values, our aspirations. And just as the environment influences us, we also influence our environment. As we work on our own transformation, as we grow, learn, and evolve, we are also transforming our environment, making it more conducive to success, not only for ourselves but for all those who come into contact with us. The power of the environment lies in its ability to amplify our energies, to empower our actions, to raise our vibrations. When we are surrounded by an environment that is aligned with our vision, our actions have a deeper impact, our intentions manifest more quickly, our efforts are rewarded with greater abundance. The environment acts as a catalyst, accelerating our progress, facilitating our evolution, supporting our pursuit of greatness. But to create an environment conducive to success, it is necessary to be aware of the influences we allow into our lives. It is necessary to be willing to let go of what no longer serves us, to release the relationships, spaces, and ideas that keep us anchored in mediocrity. It is necessary to have the courage to surround ourselves with what challenges us, what pushes us to grow, what inspires us to be the best version of ourselves. This process of creating an environment conducive to success is not an act of selfishness, but of self-love. It is the recognition that we deserve to live in an environment that supports us, nurtures us, elevates us. It is a declaration that we are committed to our own evolution, to our own pursuit of greatness. And in doing so, we are not only benefiting ourselves, but we are also contributing to the creation of a better world, a world in which everyone can prosper, in which everyone can reach their full potential. Thus, when at the end of our days we look back and contemplate the path traveled, we will be able to do so with the satisfaction of knowing that we have lived in an environment that has supported our greatness, that we have created a space in which we have prospered, in which we have grown, in which we have achieved our dreams. And in that moment, we will understand that success is not only the result of our efforts, but also the fruit of a favorable environment, an environment that we have created with consciousness, with intention, with love. Chapter 11. Success as a reflection of mental discipline. In the deepest folds of the human soul, where thought and spirit intertwine in an eternal dance, mental discipline emerges as the invisible force that shapes destiny. It is the chisel that sculpts character, the hammer that forges will, the invisible hand that guides our steps towards the heights of success. Without mental discipline, success is a mirage, an illusion that vanishes with the first gust of wind. But with it, it becomes a tangible reality, a faithful reflection of inner strength. Mental discipline is not a quality easily displayed, nor a gift received without effort. It is the result of silent and constant labor, a process of refinement carried out in the hidden workshops of the mind, far from the gaze of the world. It is an art that requires patience, perseverance, and, above all, a deep understanding of the nature of thought and its power over reality. The mind, in its natural state, is like a river that flows aimlessly, carried by the currents of desire, fear, and distraction. It is a powerful but undisciplined force that can be both a source of creation and destruction. Mental discipline is the process by which we take that force, channel it, and direct it towards a clear and defined purpose. It is the ability to maintain focus amidst distraction, to remain calm amidst the storm, to persevere amidst discouragement. Success, in its purest form, is nothing more than the reflection of this mental discipline. It is the external manifestation of an internal order, of a mind that has learned to master itself, to direct its thoughts with intention, not to yield to the temptations of the moment. It is the expression of a will that has been strengthened through constant practice, of a spirit that has learned to rise above circumstances, of a consciousness that has learned to see beyond appearances. But mental discipline is not a quality imposed from the outside, it is a flower that must be cultivated from within. It is the fruit of a process of self-knowledge, introspection, and deep understanding of the nature of the mind and its relationship with reality. It is the ability to observe our own thoughts, to recognize their patterns, to identify their tendencies, and to learn to control them, to direct them towards the achievement of our highest goals. This process of self-observation and mental control is neither an easy path nor a journey without challenges. It requires facing the shadows of the mind, the deeply rooted habits, the limiting beliefs we have accumulated over the years. It is an act of courage, will, and determination that leads us to dismantle the mental structures that have kept us trapped in mediocrity and to build new structures based on truth, clarity, and inner strength. Mental discipline is ultimately an act of freedom. Because when we learn to control our mind, to direct our thoughts, to master our emotions, we free ourselves from the chains of reactivity, from the slavery of impulses, from the tyranny of desire. We become the masters of our own life, the architects of our own destiny, the masters of our own reality. And in this freedom, we find true success, a success that does not depend on external circumstances, but on our ability to create the reality we desire from within. In the grand theater of life, success is not a play performed on the world stage, but on the inner stages of the mind. It is a process that begins in thoughts, beliefs, and intentions, and manifests in reality through our actions, decisions, and choices. And in every thought, every action, every choice, mental discipline is the key that determines the final outcome. It is easy to talk about success, greatness, and achievements, but few understand that true success is not measured in terms of wealth, power, or fame, but in terms of self-mastery, inner strength, and coherence between what we think, what we say, and what we do. Mental discipline is the thread that weaves this coherence, the pillar that sustains this strength, the foundation upon which this greatness is built. But mental discipline is not an end in itself, it is a means to a higher end. It is the tool that allows us to manifest our true essence, express our true potential, fulfill our true purpose. It is the force that drives us to overcome challenges, to persevere in difficult times, to stand firm in our convictions even when everything seems against us. In this sense, mental discipline is an expression of self-love, self-respect, and commitment to one's own greatness. It is the conscious decision not to settle for less than what we are capable of being, not to yield to the temptations of the moment, not to give up on our dreams, our ideals, our vision. It is the will to rise above circumstances, to see beyond appearances, to maintain focus on what truly matters, on what is truly worthwhile. Success, then, is not something that is achieved, but something that is reflected. It is the reflection of a disciplined mind, a strong spirit, an unbreakable will. It is the external manifestation of an internal order, of a coherence between what we are and what we do, between what we think and what we say, between what we desire and what we achieve. It is proof that we have learned to master our mind, to direct our thoughts, to control our emotions, and to live according to our highest principles. And so, when at the end of our days we look back and contemplate the path traveled, we will be able to do so with the satisfaction of knowing that we have lived a life of success, not because we have accumulated wealth, power, or fame, but because we have learned to master our mind, to discipline our thoughts, to control our emotions, and to live according to our true essence. And in that moment, we will understand that true success is not measured in external terms, but in internal terms, in the strength of our mind, in the clarity of our vision, in the coherence of our life. Chapter 12. The Journey of Inner Transformation. In the intricate tapestry of human existence, where every twist and turn reveals a new aspect of the self, the deepest and most sublime of journeys unfolds, the journey of inner transformation. It is not a journey measured in physical distances, nor a crossing undertaken with our feet, but a pilgrimage into the most hidden corners of the soul, a descent into the depths of the spirit where our most essential truths reside, our most feared shadows, and our purest light. This journey, to which we are all called at some point in our lives, is not an easy or direct path. It is a winding path through the mountains and valleys of our psyche, leading us to confront what we have hidden, denied, or repressed, and inviting us with a soft but insistent whisper to remember who we truly are. It is a journey of revelation, rediscovery, and rebirth, in which we leave behind masks and illusions and emerge as new, transformed beings, more aligned with our true essence. The beginning of this journey is often uncertain, shrouded in the mist of bewilderment or the urgency of a crisis. We find ourselves at a turning point, at a crossroads where old ways of being no longer serve us, but new ones have not yet taken shape. It is in this moment of uncertainty, doubt, and vulnerability that the seed of transformation begins to germinate. It is an inner call that urges us to leave the known, to let go of securities, and to venture into the mystery of the unknown, trusting that even if we don't know where we are going, the journey will lead us where we need to be. Inner transformation is, in its essence, a process of alchemy, a sacred art in which the darkest and densest elements of our nature are transmuted into light, wisdom, and love. It is a process that requires courage, patience, and a deep commitment to truth, because on this journey there are no shortcuts, no easy paths. Every step we take confronts us with a new truth, a new lesson, a new opportunity for growth. As we move along this path, we realize that transformation is not something that happens overnight, nor is it a destination that is reached definitively. It is a continuous process, a constant flow of death and rebirth, of dissolution and recreation. It is an eternal cycle in which each time we let go of a part of what we believed ourselves to be, we get a little closer to what we truly are. And in each cycle, in each turn of the spiral, we become more conscious, more awake, more complete. This journey is not undertaken alone, although it often seems so. Along the way, we find guides, teachers, fellow travelers who offer us their wisdom, their support, their love. Sometimes these guides take the form of people who cross our path at key moments. Other times they manifest as books, teachings, or even as deep intuitions that arise in the silence of meditation. But always, in some way, we receive the help we need to keep going, to overcome obstacles, to keep moving forward on our path. Inner transformation is also a process of healing, reconciliation, and integration. It is the act of bringing together the fragmented parts of our being, of healing the wounds of the past, of forgiving ourselves for mistakes made, of accepting our shadows and embracing our light. It is a process of reintegration in which all parts of our being, the known and the unknown, the loved and the feared, unite in a new totality, in a new consciousness of what we are and what we can become. On this journey, resistance is inevitable. We will encounter our own internal resistances, the parts of ourselves that fear change, that cling to the past, that struggle to maintain the status quo. But it is also in these resistances that we will find our greatest opportunities for growth, our greatest lessons, our greatest gifts. Because every time we overcome a resistance, every time we break through an obstacle, every time we choose to move forward despite fear, we strengthen ourselves, empower ourselves, transform ourselves. The journey of inner transformation is ultimately a journey towards love, truth, and freedom. It is the path that leads us to remember our true nature, to awaken to the divinity that resides within us, to recognize that we are beings of light, of love, of infinite possibility. It is the process by which we free ourselves from the chains of ignorance, fear, and suffering and rise to a new consciousness, to a new reality, to a new life. At the end of this journey, when we have traversed the shadows, when we have faced our fears, when we have overcome our resistances, we will emerge as new, renewed, transformed beings. And in that moment, we will look back and understand that everything we have lived, everything we have faced, everything we have overcome, has been part of a larger plan, of a divine design that has guided us towards the realization of our highest potential. We will understand that the journey of inner transformation is not a destination, but a path, a journey that lasts a lifetime, an eternal dance between light and shadow, between love and fear, between what we are and what we are destined to be. And in that understanding, we will find peace, gratitude, the certainty that regardless of external circumstances, we have always been, are, and will be on the right path, on the path to the realization of our true self. Thus, when at the end of our days we contemplate the path traveled, we will do so with the satisfaction of knowing that we have lived a life of transformation, a life in which we have embraced change, in which we have faced our shadows, in which we have awakened our true nature. And in that moment, we will understand that true transformation is not something that is achieved, but something that is lived, something that is experienced, something that is celebrated in every moment, in every breath, in every heartbeat. Chapter 13. The Leadership of Life. Guiding by Example. In the vast tapestry of human existence, where souls intertwine in a constant dance of influences and learnings, leadership emerges as a silent yet potent force, capable of transforming realities and shaping destinies. It is not the leadership that is displayed with titles or imposed with authority, but a more subtle and profound leadership, one that is exercised from the heart, lived through example, and manifested in every action, every word, every thought. This leadership, which we might call the leadership of life, is not something learned from books or acquired in seminars. It is a quality cultivated in daily life, in the choices we make, in the way we face challenges, in how we treat others, and above all, in how we treat ourselves. It is a leadership that does not seek followers, but rather inspires others to find their own path, to awaken their own light, to lead their own lives with authenticity and purpose. Guiding by example is, in essence, an act of congruence, of alignment between who we are and what we do, between what we say and what we live. It is the ability to be true to ourselves, to live in accordance with our highest values, to be an authentic reflection of the truth we carry within. It is a leadership that needs no proclamation because it manifests in the coherence of our actions, the integrity of our character, the constancy of our purpose. True leadership is not a burden carried on the shoulders, but a light carried in the heart. It is the torch that illuminates the way not only for ourselves but for all those around us, for those seeking inspiration, guidance, and example. But this light is not ignited by empty words or superficial gestures. It is ignited by the fire of authenticity, by the flame of truth, by the warmth of compassion. It is a light that shines not because we want others to follow us, but because we have learned to follow our own truth, to live in accordance with our own essence, to be the best version of ourselves. In the leadership of life, every action counts, every decision matters, every moment is an opportunity to be an example. It is not about being perfect, but about being conscious, responsible, and authentic. It is the recognition that our lives have an impact, that what we do, what we say, what we think has an effect on the world around us, and that we have the power to choose how we want to influence that world. This leadership manifests in the small things, in the daily details, in the way we face challenges, in how we treat others, in how we respond to adversity. It manifests in the ability to remain calm in the midst of the storm, to be a source of hope when all seems lost, to be a beacon of light when the path darkens. It is the ability to lead not from power, but from love, not from control, but from trust, not from ego, but from the Spirit. Guiding by example is also an act of humility, of recognizing our own limitations, of accepting our own imperfections. It is the ability to lead not from a position of superiority, but from a position of equality, of shared humanity. It is the willingness to learn from others, to listen, to be open to new perspectives, to grow together with those we guide. It is the understanding that leadership is not a position but a relationship, a constant interaction between our being and the world around us. In this leadership of life, we do not seek to be followed, but to be understood. We do not seek to impose our will, but to inspire the will of others. We do not seek to be admired, but to be authentic. It is a leadership based on connection, empathy, and respect. It is the ability to see others not as followers, but as equals, as beings with their own paths, their own challenges, their own truths. It is the ability to guide not with force, but with wisdom, not with imposition, but with example. This leadership is reflected in our ability to remain faithful to our principles, even when it is difficult, even when it is unpopular, even when it involves sacrifice. It is the ability to act with integrity, to live with purpose, to be a living example of what it means to be truly human. It is the willingness to take initiative, to be pioneers, to open new paths, not out of a desire for recognition, but out of a desire to contribute, to serve, to make a difference. But perhaps most importantly, this leadership of life is not exercised from the outside, but from within. It is the ability to lead our own life, to be the masters of our own destiny, to take the reins of our own path. It is the ability to live in alignment with our truth, to be true to ourselves, to be a living example of what it means to be authentic, to be free, to be complete. At the end of this path, when we have guided by example, when we have lived in accordance with our principles, when we have been the light that illuminates the path for others, we will understand that true leadership is not measured in terms of followers, but in terms of influence, not in terms of power, but in terms of impact, not in terms of what we have achieved, but in terms of what we have been. We will understand that the leadership of life is not a destination, but a journey towards authenticity, towards truth, towards realization. And so, when at the end of our days we look back and contemplate the path traveled, we will do so with the satisfaction of knowing that we have lived a life of leadership, not because we commanded, but because we guided, not because we controlled, but because we inspired, not because we were followed, but because we were a living example of what it means to be truly human. Chapter 14. The Transcendence of the Human Mind. In the vast immensity of being, where the limits of physical reality vanish on the horizon of thought and consciousness, the human mind reveals itself as the bridge between the finite and the infinite, between the material and the transcendental. It is at this intersection where the temporal touches the eternal that the mind becomes the instrument of transcendence, the tool by which the spirit rises beyond the barriers of flesh and time, into the boundless realms of what can be. The transcendence of the human mind is not an abstract concept or a mere philosophical aspiration. It is a living reality, a concrete possibility that lies latent within each of us, waiting to be awakened, cultivated, realized. It is the process by which the mind, freed from the chains of ignorance and fear, rises to new heights of understanding, wisdom, and power. It is the ability to see beyond appearances, to penetrate the essence of things, to connect with the universal truths that underlie the fabric of the cosmos. This process of transcendence begins with a simple but profound act of recognition, the understanding that the mind is much more than an organ of thought, more than a machine for processing information. It is a window to the infinite, a portal to the realms of the spirit, a vehicle of transformation that, when used correctly, can lead us to states of consciousness that transcend the mundane, the trivial, the ephemeral. But for the mind to reach its full potential, for it to truly transcend, a process of purification, liberation, and expansion is necessary. It is necessary to let go of limiting beliefs, fixed ideas, patterns of thought that keep us trapped in a narrow view of reality. It is necessary to open ourselves to new possibilities, to new ways of seeing, understanding, and experiencing the world. It is necessary to cultivate a flexible, receptive, expansive mind, capable of adapting to changing circumstances, capable of seeing beyond the immediate, capable of embracing the unknown. The transcendence of the human mind is, ultimately, a process of self-realization, of awakening to our true nature, of remembering who we truly are. It is the process by which we free ourselves from self-imposed limitations, from the illusions we have accepted as reality, from the invisible chains that bind us to a limited existence. It is the act of raising our consciousness, expanding our vision, connecting with the infinite source of wisdom and power that resides in the deepest part of our being. This process is neither linear nor simple. It is an upward ascent that takes us through layers of understanding, levels of consciousness, dimensions of being. It is a journey that requires courage, because it involves facing the shadows of the mind, the dark corners where our fears, insecurities, and doubts hide. But it is precisely in this confrontation, in this act of bravery, that we find the seeds of our transcendence. Because by illuminating those shadows, by facing what we have feared, by accepting what we have rejected, we release the energy necessary to rise, to expand, to transcend. The mind in its natural state is an ocean of possibilities, an infinite field of potential. But this potential is only realized when the mind is disciplined, when it is directed with intention, when it is fed with thoughts of truth, love, and power. It is in the discipline of the mind that we find the key to transcendence. Because only a disciplined mind, a mind that has learned to control its thoughts, to direct its energies, to focus on the essential, can truly transcend the limitations of the material world and rise to the heights of the spirit. The transcendence of the human mind is also an act of connection, union, and integration. It is the process by which we connect with the universal mind, with cosmic consciousness, with the infinite intelligence that permeates the entire universe. It is the act of recognizing that we are not separate from the whole, that we are not mere isolated individuals, but integral parts of a vast and wonderful tapestry of being. It is the understanding that our mind is an extension of the universal mind, that our thoughts are waves in the ocean of cosmic consciousness, and that by raising our mind, we are contributing to the elevation of all humanity, of the entire universe. In this sense, the transcendence of the mind is not a selfish act, but an act of service, an act of love. Because when we transcend, when we rise, we not only benefit ourselves, but we also benefit all those who touch our lives. We become beacons of light, sources of inspiration, channels of wisdom and power for others. We become agents of change, catalysts of transformation, instruments of divine will. This process of transcendence is also an act of humility, because it implies recognizing that no matter how much we have learned, no matter how much we have understood, there is always more to discover, more to understand, more to be. It is an act of surrender to the infinitude of the universe, to the infinitude of consciousness, to the infinitude of being. It is the willingness to let go of the known, to leave behind certainties, to embrace the mystery, to enter the unknown with faith, with confidence, with the certainty that we are being guided, sustained, protected. And so, when we have finally transcended the limitations of the mind, when we have ascended to the heights of the spirit, we will realize that true transcendence is not a destination, but a continuous process, an eternal dance between the finite and the infinite, between the human and the divine, between the temporal and the eternal. We will realize that transcendence is not an end in itself, but a means to the realization of our true essence, to the expression of our true self, to the manifestation of our true divinity. Chapter 15. The Legacy of Self-Mastery, Inspiring Future Generations. In the depths of time, where the footsteps of ancestors intertwine with the dreams of those to come, the concept of legacy stands as a pillar that transcends the ephemeral nature of life. It is not a legacy of material goods, which will inevitably vanish into the dust of oblivion, but a more enduring, more sublime legacy, a legacy of spirit, character, and self-mastery. It is the impalpable inheritance left to future generations, an eternal beacon that illuminates their path, guides them in darkness, and inspires them to rise above circumstances, to discover the strength within themselves. Self-mastery is the supreme art of the human being. Self-control, the governance of emotions, the conscious direction of thoughts. It is the quality that distinguishes the great from the common, leaders from followers, the wise from the ignorant. It is the inner discipline that allows the spirit to stand firm amidst the storms of life, granting it the ability to act with serenity, purpose, and integrity, even when everything around it seems to be crumbling. This legacy, the legacy of self-mastery, is not something imposed from outside, but something cultivated from within. It is a fire that burns in the depths of being, a light that illuminates from within, a power that strengthens with every challenge overcome, every temptation resisted, every victory over oneself. It is the result of a life lived with intention, purpose, and consciousness. It is the invisible mark we leave on the hearts and minds of those who come after us, a mark that endures, transcends, and inspires. Inspiring future generations is not an act of imposition, but an act of example. It is the ability to live in such a way that our actions speak louder than our words, that our life becomes a living testimony of what is possible when one lives with self-mastery, with discipline, with a deep sense of responsibility. It is the ability to be a role model, not for perfection, but for authenticity, coherence, and the courage to be true to oneself even amidst the most difficult trials. Self-mastery is the key that opens the doors to greatness, allowing the spirit to ascend above the limitations of the physical world and connect with the eternal truths of the universe. It is the quality that enables people to overcome adverse circumstances, not to be swept away by currents of despair or fear, and to stand firm on their path.